Well, we will start with that incident of yesterday before we delve into perhaps our major conversation, which is that of the PIB and some of the suspicions and the arguments that have gone on since it was passed. Let's begin the conversation by speaking with my first guest on the program. Is the Senate spokesperson, Senator Ajibala Basiru, and a member of the Senate Committee on the PIB. Thank you so much, Senator, for joining us tonight on the program. Let's begin by getting your view.
Good evening, Sean.
Yeah. The Ilana Omo Odua group, who are staging the Yoruba Nation rally across some parts of the Southwest, they were in Lagos yesterday. As a senator from the Southwest region, a Yoruba man, what do you make of the agitation of this group?
As far as I'm concerned, I'm not a member of that group. Nigeria is an heterogeneous society, and there are different diverse views. As a human rights activist, I believe in right to self-determination, but I believe it should be conducted within the ambit of civility and law. And I also believe that it is also presumptuous for people without adequate mobilization and referendum to assume that their view represents the view of the majority, of the people. So as far as I'm concerned, it's neither here nor there. People can decide to ventilate, their grievances, whether genuine or real. It is part of the democratic process, but that must be done within the ambit, of the requisite law.
As a PhD holder in law, you do understand also the line between secession, self-determination, and agitation in the minds of people such as Ilana Omo Odua. Well, since you've laid a premise in which you think they should operate, did they operate under that premise in which you think is permissible under the law?
I think under the extant law that we have, taking law into your hand, taking arms and ammunition with a view to overhaul the elected representative of the people is actually treason and treasonable felony. So there's a thin line between saying you are fighting for self-determination and taking arms against the state. Yes, you can lobby, you can associate, but then you cannot take law into your hand. The aphorism in human rights jurisprudence is that the freedom of your fist ends where my nose begins. You cannot, because you want to ventilate your what you consider to be your right, to infringe on the right and freedom and liberty and property of other people. And I've said several times, there is strength in the unity and diversity of our country. And if there are issues bordering on devolution of power, restructuring, there are matters that could actually be taken up within the existing constitutional and legal arrangements. Just this evening, the first round of retreat of the Nigerian Senate on the amendment of Constitution rounded up. We have been on this since Thursday, and we have adjourned for 2 weeks so that we can continue the exercise. I believe with the reception of ideas in the 12 zonal hearings and the national public hearing, a lot of Nigerians are willing to toe the path of legality and constitutionality to see that we have necessary legal and constitutional amendments that ensure fairness, equity, welfare, and security of our people. And I think that is the civilized way to go about whatever agitation anybody has. So your right to self-determination does not include taking liberty to take arms against an organized state.
So as a senator from the Southwest region, you do not support this movement?
I'm not a member of the movement, and I don't even know what their manifesto and who are the leaders of those organizations. I can only act within the ambit of my knowledge, and I'm an elected person from Osun Central Senatorial District. I've not received any memo from any group or organizations saying that they are asking me to support or express my opinion in their regard. So as a representative of the people, I think I will expect feedback and to be carried along with such. So I'm not aware, I've not received any communication from anybody from that organization or any other organization that seek my opinion or my support or any direction in that regard.
Before we let go of this matter, part of the agitation on the minds of some of these people in this group is the fact that they said they do not trust the National Assembly to bring to pass some of the things that will bring about fairness as is being captured in some of their demands. But give us your take on the operation of the DSS, who have called Sunday Adeyemo, popularly called Sunday Igboho, to turn himself in after the raid on his Ibadan residence. But his lawyers have objected to the incidents and how the DSS carried out that operations. Give us your view on the operation by the DSS on his home and perhaps the implication or import of that.
Let me take first and foremost what implied in what you said to be that people don't trust the National Assembly. I was elected by people of Osun Central in an election adjudged to be free and fair. And similarly, there are constituted legal mechanism for which you can effect change in constitutional arrangement. So if you don't believe in the part of constitutionality and legality, you are then making an invitation to anarchy. Just as I've said, the right of a state, an elected government, is to ensure security and welfare of the people, and part of it is to ensure even the sanctity of democratic institutions. So to take arms and seek to take arms against a constituted government and thinking that government will treat it with levity, I think it is well beyond democratic aspirations. You can even see where they quickly refer to is advanced, what they call advanced countries or advanced democracy like United States of America. You can see the way the security forces were mobilized to deal with the insurrection or purported insurrection at the Capitol ahead of the inauguration of the new president. As far as I'm concerned, I don't speak for the Directorate of SSS. I've not taken a private study of the contentions of the party. And I think it is good that at least Mr. Sunday Adeyemo has decided to take a lawyer, and that means that he's also thinking in line of exploring the legality or otherwise of the action that has been taken by the DSS. That is a much welcome development than to make a statement capable of generating tension, undermining security, and putting the life, limb, and liberty of other people in jeopardy.
Let's leave that for a moment and go into the issue of the Petroleum Industry Bill, which was passed. But now there are a lot of contentions and a lot of issues that have been raised over that. Senator, give us an insight into what really happened and how the senators came to the agreement of a 3% equity shares for host communities. When some lawmakers argued for up to 15, some said 10, your colleagues in the House of Reps pegged it at 5%.
I think in order to properly situate our discussion and educate Nigerians as to the issue of percentages, I think it's proper to say that 3 funds were created under the bill that had been passed. And the funds are Midstream Gas Infrastructure Fund, which is aiming at unlocking our potential for accelerated energy transition, which of course is imminent in view of the fact that it's been projected that by 2050 there will be challenges about the current, there will be issue of carbon neutrality. Second is the Host Community Development Trust Fund, and then you have the Frontier Exploration Fund. On the Midstream Gas Infrastructure Fund, there appear to be no issues about it. The sources of those funding were clearly articulated in Section 57, of the bill. And then the issue of Host Community Development Trust Fund, unlike before, when you apply just principle of derivation, the law has not taken away derivation, but the Host Community Development Trust Fund go directly to a trust that will be set up by the operators in the host community. And this would also have representative of the host community in terms of management, utilization, and certain obligations in terms of protection of infrastructure are also placed on the host community. As to the figures, we are not talking of 2%, 3% of a particular amount of money, you must know what particular amount of money to know what it is. It's not 3% of 1 million naira. In terms of projection, the experts who interfaced with the National Assembly came up with different scenarios. They came up with 2.5% scenario, which was what was originally in the proposed bill by the executive. They came up with 3%, 3.5%, 5%, 5.5%, 7.5%, and 10%. Then what it amounts to in terms of monetary translation into dollar was also translated. The 3% that people talk about come up to $502.8 million annually. So we are not just talking of 3% as in a negligible amount of money. In monetary sum, it amounts to $502.83 million dollars. And that amount is also further augmented by the fact that there was an amendment to Section 104 of the bill, which provides that whatever penalties from gas flaring will also go back for the purpose of environmental remediation and welfare of the host community. So the whole picture is not about what he just mentioned, 3%. It's about $502 million, as well as whatever proceeds of gas penalty from each of the community going back to that community. And of course, a mischief has also been raised as to the Frontier Exploration Fund. First and foremost, the right from the establishment of the NNPC, there has always been budget for frontier exploration. And what it means is to be able to look for resources to be able to address exploration.
Apologies to Cotton. I'd like us to take these issues one after the other before we go into the frontier matter and all of that. I'd like you to listen to some of the debates over this issue of the equity fund and perhaps a clearer understanding of what people are agitated about and what people are saying, especially those who are from that region of the country. Take a listen to some of these arguments on the issue of equity funds.
Equity share that will make us part and parcel of the business. 10% will definitely, not just 10%, equity share, so that when the government and the company loses, we lose as well.
We are talking about 5%. The 5% is not too much. You have headed this place very well. We admire your administrative style. We agree with you on almost every issue. This one is a very naughty one, Mr. President.
There will be harmonization. There's going to be a conference. I also believe that a conference, whatever went wrong will be corrected. Because anything short of 5% will not sit well with the host communities. I can tell you that.
Those are some of the arguments of some of those who believe that, look, it will not go down well with the people of the host communities if because the essence of the bill is to give fairness and to have a well-organized petroleum industry in Nigeria. How do you react to some of these arguments, Senator?
I think I must first disabuse Nigerian as to the propaganda as to the issue of whether there is north-south divide on the question of 3% or 5%. I've read a lot of misinformation and fake news that there is a gang up against the South by northern legislator. If that were the case, the question you ask is that at the House of Representatives, where 5% was voted for, were there no northern representative or southern representative? I want to first say, first and foremost, that we must address issues from the perspective of in the interest of Nigeria, and the two chambers have taken a diverse position and not based on geography or ethnic or regional affiliation. And I will tell you, I can speak for the Senate why 3% was agreed. It is not out of a whimsical decision. We actually asked even the GMD of NNPC to address the executive session and present different scenarios to us. I have the graph before me here. He presented scenario for 2.5%, 3%, 3.5%, 4%, 4.5%, and 5%. 5% will amount to 838.05 million US dollars, and the 4.5 will be 754.24 dollars. 4% will be $770.44 million. Then 3.5 will be $586.63 million, and $502.83 million. Then we sought for opinion. This opinion as to which of these figures will be competitive to ensure that the investment in the Nigerian oil and gas will be attractive on the global competitive basis. You will be aware of the fact that because of the projection to AET, accelerated energy transition, there is going to be proliferation in opening up acreages across the world. There will be different licensing rounds. So the idea is that, yes, you can talk of 3% or 2% or 5% being adequate or inadequate. That is if there is any money at all. But if there is no investment attracted into our oil and gas sector, considering the competitiveness of the matter, whether 0% or 10% or 100%, you will not even get any amount of money. So the decision of the Nigerian Senate was based on expert advice as to the fact that 3% is competitive enough, and in view of additional funding that will go by way of the NNDC investment into the 13% derivation and the Section 104, by which the gas flare penalties will go directly to the affected community. It is felt, and we took decision in the best interest of Nigeria, in the best interest of unlocking the potentials of the oil and gas sector. And decision was not based on whether somebody is from the north or somebody from the north, and that is why the position taken by the House of Rep, comprising northern and southern senators, belie any insinuation of ethnic agenda at the national
All right,
Assembly.
Senator, let's for a moment bring in a colleague of yours from the House of Representatives. He's a lawmaker from the People's Democratic Party, Honorable Tajuddin Yusuf, who joins us virtually from Abuja. Honorable, thank you so much for your time this evening. Let me get your view. Do you agree with Senator Bashiru on his point on the issue of the equity shares?
Thank you very much, Shiru. And thank you, Senator. I listen to the Senator and I hear him clearly. I think in the last submission, he clearly defined the fact that there will be nothing to share if there is no investment. By implication, this 3%, the 5% is a projection. So those who are saying that they want something more than 3% are projecting that if we have good investment, we want to take reasonable amount so as to justify whatever we are losing environmentally and what have you. And don't forget, there's a clause in the new bill that gives certain responsibility to the host community. Why the host community are asking for more is that what we are getting should be enough incentive to discourage vandalism and what have you. Because the intention of the bill is to say that as a host community, if you do not help us in protecting these infrastructures, you will bear the consequence. However, if the process or the proceed of vandalization is more attractive than what is in the law, it becomes not too attractive, and it will give room for those vandalization. I am of the opinion, and that's what the house position. But there's one good thing about lawmaking: we will still harmonize what the Senate passed and what the House passed. We'll still sit down, and that's why we look at it. But first of all, I want to appreciate both chambers. The fact that for the first time we are at this level. However, if we want to sincerely decentralize and onboard with the oil sector, we must take every segment of the society it to be. Oil business is not buns and rice. It requires a lot of intellectual and in-depth analysis. So I agree with the Senator on some, but on that figure, I think that we must come together as National Assembly and put something that will be attractive enough to discourage vandalism. So that is my opinion.
All right. Just another issue. I have a feeling that there is some feedback noise coming from your environment. If you can mute the volume of your TV set, Honorable, so that we can only hear your your own audio, your own voice. I think your TV is giving a feedback all back there. But I'm sure you must have heard or read about some of the suspicion on some of the areas in this bill. Would you say, for example, that this bill represents or satisfies the interests of the region where the oil exploration takes place?
Hello?
Yeah, did you get me?
By interaction, I think there is a bit of agitation. However, like I said earlier, there is need to agree that we are even moving a step. We are taking some steps. However, there is need to hear them loud and clear. If I hear them loud and clear, they are not comfortable with it. One good thing about democracy is that it gives room for the negotiation and what have you. I think we should continue to talk about it, be engaging about it. That's the best way to get out of it. Like I said earlier, we must, as a nation, come out with a bill that will help us present ourselves as a country of the investment destination. We must reduce the crisis and the security around oil exploration and what have you to make it attractive. So I believe that the Niger Delta region are asking for more, they deserve for more. However, they should come to the table, seek to convince every member of National Assembly on the need to increase the percentage. Like I said earlier, the House of Rep and the Senate will still harmonize. So there is room for improvement. It is not yet the end of the matter.
Let me allow Senator Basiru to react to some of the things Honorable Yusuf has said. I mean, he does not think that enough has been done just yet. But I would like you to tell us, Senator, do you think that what is fair and enough has been done to the areas or communities where exploration happens in Nigeria in this bill?
I think this should not be a talking back thing. He has expressed his opinion, and as a legislator, that is his own opinion. I've also said that the decision of the Nigerian Senate is based on advice of the experts that there is a need, while we need to assuage the feelings of the host community, you must also make the Nigerian oil and gas competitive enough to open up the acreages and explore investment for both for existing acreages and new acreages. That is the rationale for our decision. Every other person or stakeholder should be able to do so. You must also be aware of the fact that apart from the host community, the investing community are also critical stakeholders. In fact, without the investing community, there will be nothing to even give, whether it is 100%, it will be 100% of zero is zero. But 3% of something substantial is something. So we are concerned about ensuring that, yes, we address the concern of the host community. And I've said that the story is not just about the host community development trust fund. There is also additional funding going into to gas infrastructure in those communities, which is warehoused in the midstream gas infrastructure development fund, by which it is believed that part of our accelerated energy transition is to ensure that we do massive investment in the gas sector, which is actually the future of energy. And I've also said that the gas flaring penalty are now being ring-fenced for the purpose of the host community. We cannot put a figure to it, even though the desire of the law is to stamp out gas flaring. It will take some time. So the penalties coming from gas flaring will go to the host community rather than going to the general distributable pool of the federation. These are part of additional icing on the cake.
All right, there are so much more agitations. Perhaps another one is the issue of if you have oil pipeline move across your community, whether or not that community is being referred to a host community or not. That's another issue. But we leave that till when we come back from this break. We take a break, everyone. But when we come back, we'll be joined again on the program by a former NBA president, senior advocate of Nigeria, Mr. Joseph Daudu. and it will be giving us some legal perspective to some of these issues that we have raised tonight. And the rally and the agitation for self-determination, the petroleum industry. But don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone. Let's get back to the conversation with Senator Ajibala Basiru, Senate spokesperson and a member of the Senate Committee on the Petroleum Industry Bill, and also Honorable Tajuddin Yusuf, a member of the House of Representatives and a member of the PDP. Let's get back to the conversation now on this issue of the PIB. Senator, please make sense for us on the Frontier Exploration Fund, which has been interpreted as an unfair justification of earmarking to favor a section of the country.
I think I must say that that allegation is also part of misinformation. If you go to the definition section of the PIB that has been passed, what constitutes a frontier basin is actually defined. It will interest you that you find Anambra as part of the area listed there. I don't know whether Anambra has become part of northern Nigeria. And part of the definition also allow the commission to make regulation to include other areas. What constitutes frontier basin is geologically defined and not by a region or otherwise, as has been peddled around. So the first thing to clear is that it's not about making money available for northern region, as has been speculated and wrongly peddled. Definition section of the bill clearly define what is basin and what is a frontier basin, and also allow for further expansion of where we constitute basin based on geological definition. Secondly, too, even before the bill, there has always been investment on an annual basis budgetarily into the area of exploring this frontier. The idea is to be able to unlock new acreages, to be able to, particularly in the area of oil and gas. And this has yielded some results, particularly in the area like Bauchi. So the whole idea about what I was saying about funds created under the PIB are three. We have spoken about the midstream gas infrastructure development fund. We have spoken about the host community trust development fund. The third fund is the Frontier Exploration Fund, and it is part of the strategic intervention to prepare the country for the accelerated energy transition. What it means is that whatever is found in terms of gas and oil and gas reserve in this frontier, they go ultimately to the pool that will be source of revenue for the federation. So it's like an investment for the whole country and not investment for any section or part of the country. And of course, contrary to the figure being bandied around, yes, it was said that 30% was of profit oil was put into it. But what it translates to in terms of dollar terms, it's $315 million, which is even a far cry from what 3% amounting to 502 point something million dollars is about. So when you talk, there is a kind of obfuscation, if I use that word, when you just mention percentages, as if percentages is with reference to a baseline. So the baseline that's being referred to, as far as the Frontier Exploration Fund translates to, is $315 million. The 3% amounts to 502%, and the 5% which has been passed by the House of Representatives is about 800 and something million dollars. So we need to make this figure clear, and for us to be able to speak to the figure rather than people banding things as if 30% is taken to a particular place and 3% is taken to a particular place. Far from that, these are based on index figures.
Let me bring in Honorable TJ back into the conversation. Honorable, it does look like from where you are standing might be different from where the senator is standing, and perhaps the perspective and the perception of these issues are different. Do you agree with the senator on some of the suspicion or some of the issues that have agitated the minds of people, perhaps where some section of the country believes that you're paying people, you're collecting from Peter to pay Paul, or why would you invest such money on the Frontier Exploration Fund for another region of the country? I know you've heard about those agitation and those suspicion. What's your take on it?
Yeah, clearly, when the senator was making his submission, I had something very clear that he said that it is not that some money is made available for one part of the country, the frontier exploration. I agree with him. That is not the intention. That is not. So I agree with him in total on that. The only thing is that some of us question the front line exploration because that is not the practice when oil exploration started in Niger Delta. Till date, I'm aware that Shell started spending about $4 million as a then until Olubiri, oil was discovered in Olubiri. Until 1973, Nigeria had no interest, no kobo in exploration. In fact, in 1973, what Nigeria did was to buy 30% of these oil companies. So until then, we were not even part of it, was pure business. Until today, I am not aware of any money made available to explore oil there, apart from this frontier that came into budget in 2016. I saw it first 2016. About 60 billion was provided. And I said, we might be unconsciously providing slot money for people. And that if as a businessman, oil and gas, do I need government money to do exploration? No. I should have the technical know-how to know the right area to go into for exploration. And if I hit oil there, that's business. And I think business itself allows some level of risk. And I want to correct something in the first argument I presented. It was not an attempt in any way to say the Senate had done anything wrong or what have you. It's a proposal. That's what the Senate feel is right, 3%. And it's not my place to say they've done wrong. What I'm just saying is that there's still room for improvement. And a law at this level is, for the first time, we have a PIB. And at the level it is before harmonization, there's still room for improvement. That's what I'm saying. For those who are agitating for the number to move from 3 to 4, 5, it is still possible. It's not impossible. Then, as per where we are going, I believe, like the Senator said, gas is the main thing. Gas is the main thing globally, that we should go energy-wise. And I agree that there is need to deliberately move policies in that direction. And there's need to unbundle NNPC and make it more profitable and make it company that is being done. We have two major companies that is coming out of it. A corporation that we have become a public, that will allow public equity to be people to invest into it. I agree into that. Only what I'm saying is that in the area of these two contention issues, we should manage it well, just like he said, so that the wrong impression will not prevail. People will not come to conclusion and begin to have a negative perspective about this bill because of certain, not too clear issues. Not that they are not clear, but people perceive it that way. One, the host community thing. Two, the frontier exploration. Frontier exploration, as a businessman, if I'm running my business, I would not put money into frontier exploration. I would rather allow businesses to take the risk and do their exploration and come up to make profit, just like Shell, Chevron, all other companies did, and they are still existing today. That's just it. But I agree with him. It is not intended in the manner that the public is taking it, that is to make money available for certain people. No.
To wrap up the conversation, another agitation on the minds of people is the drafting of the clause that defines host communities where perhaps oil pipelines go through. Are they regarded as host communities? Is that what the PIB or what that piece of legislation is saying?
These are some of the reasons why the PIB are taking this long to be passed. There's a lot of intrigues and politics about the petroleum industry bill. Everybody wants to have a bit of bite of the cake. My proposal, my position is that I will prefer a situation where it's an intervention, that it should not be couched and I don't think it is couched that way in House of Rep. I don't know I've not seen the Senate version, but I know it was said it should become impacted or what have you, impacted community rather than company called host community. Me, I believe that since we are involved in, it's going to run as a business entity. I think the business entity will have a responsibility to take care of pipelines. It is natural that if one of the tools of your business is challenged in any way, you naturally fix it. So I think maybe this is the first time we are passing the bill in the law. I would believe that with time we'll get into, practicing it, and we'll begin to see the limitation and shortcomings and we'll improve on it. If not, then for me, I would think that we do not need to delve into that. These are some of the reasons why there are a lot of insinuations. That's the reason why we have a lot of story going around. So what is fear must not only be done as fear, must be seen as fear. So I do not know the version that is being passed eventually, but I'm aware that there is something of that nature called impacted communities. I think it's overkill going into such. But there's room for an improvement.
Okay, great. Senator, just about 30 seconds for us to wrap up. I'd like to get your view on this, and so that we can wrap up. The issue of the drafting of that clause, which defines when oil go through a community, is it in that bill and the version of the Senate, is it regarded, with those areas be regarded as host communities, just simply that oil pipeline goes through your community?
I'm always very careful when people make overgeneralization of a statement. What is meant is that host community is defined in relation to activities that is carried on in your community. For the purpose of oil, exploration and oil prospecting, of course, if it is within your geographical location, you are an host community. So for the purpose of setting up a trust fund to be able to benefit your community, you will be regarded by the settlor, the person carrying out the activity in that regard. At the same time, if a gas pipeline is done by a licensee of a gas pipeline, of course, those people that host those gas pipeline would be deemed to be the host community for the purpose of the gas pipeline, not for the purpose of the oil that has been prospected or the gas that has been put in the pipeline. So a practical approach is taken to definition of host community in reference to the activities that is carrying on in respect to that place. And I don't think even anybody from the South has raised any issue as to the aptness and the correctness of the definition of host community.
I must sincerely thank both of you, Senator Ajibola Basiru, Senate spokesperson and a member of the Senate Committee on PIB, and Honorable Tajuddin Yusuf. It's a pleasure to have you on the program too, a member of the House of Representatives and a member of the PDP. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for talking to us tonight.